You're listening to the Jōrni Podcast. Living the dream sometimes means barely holding on. Stay tuned for an eye-opening episode. This episode contains adult subject matter and some listeners may be triggered by this content. Listener discretion is advised. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Jōrni Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we reflect on what it means to reclaim mental health in a world that often asks us to hide behind masks. Through stories of resilience and purpose, we explore how honest conversations, community, and compassion can open the door to healing. Gretchen Schoser is a passionate mental health advocate, award-winning podcast host, and the founder of Schoser Talent and Wellness Solutions. After experiencing a life-altering mental health crisis on Christmas Day 2022, she transformed her pain into purpose, launching a global podcast just weeks later. Through candid conversations, humor, and heartfelt storytelling, Gretchen helps normalize mental health discussions and support healing in both personal and professional spaces. Today, she blends her 30-plus years of leadership experience with her advocacy work to create safe, emotionally intelligent workplaces and communities where people can thrive. Let's meet Gretchen Schoser. Hi, Gretchen. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because we will be talking about something so important and very dear to my heart, reclaiming your mental health. And we touched on this a little bit as we were chatting that, the world really needs us to talk more about this. And thank you for being here today and welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be on your show.
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure, and it is such a delight to meet you and share this conversation with you. I know you have a lot of experience and wisdom to share, so I can't wait to get started. And for starters, Gretchen, would you like to share a little bit, maybe the parts of your journey and your story that you'd like to start us off with that you feel are maybe connected deeply to what you do today, and take us a little bit into what it is that you do today?
For sure. My story started in the last quarter of 2022. It's probably the hardest quarter of my life. A lot of things happened in a very short period of time. I'm an extrovert and an empath, so took on everybody else's crap, but didn't take care of myself. And as the months progressed, my wife got shingles. If you've ever known anybody that has shingles, it is the worst, horrible, painful condition you can ever have. I was offered an early retirement from work. It should have been a good thing, but as I get through my story, you'll understand why it was hard. I hit and killed a deer. I got catfished. A really good friend of ours passed away unexpectedly. My father-in-law passed away 2 days before Thanksgiving here in the States. Then throw in some seasonal depression, some holiday depression, and the fact that once I decided to take my early retirement, work was starting to slowly peel away all my duties. And I had a real sense of worthlessness, like I wasn't needed. And there's still ageism in the workforce. And I was only 59 and a half at the time. And I didn't really understand what was going on in my head because I'd never felt any of that before. I'd had all these things roaming around in my head, but people would ask me how I was doing. And simple phrase, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm living the dream. But in the inside, I was not living the dream. I was done. Being an empath, like I said, I took on everybody else's pain, but didn't take care of myself. And when we talk about self-love and self-care, it's not just a catchphrase. If you are not taking care of yourself, you cannot take care of anybody else. You can fake it till you make it, and then you break. And so that's what happened to me. So on Christmas Day, 2022, I was just done. It was super, super cold here. It was minus 22 Fahrenheit here. And I wanted to go for a drive because going for a drive helps me clear my head. I get out to my car. My car didn't start because why? It was so cold. So I was pissed and defeated. And I just came back in the house. And I don't think my wife even knew that I came back in the house. I went upstairs and I had a bottle of pills on my nightstand. So I poured the entire bottle of pills into my hand. My hands were shaking. And I had remembered a couple months before that, I had read about the 988 crisis and suicide hotline here in the United States. And there was this glimmer of hope that something was going to get better. I called 988 and my hands were shaking so bad and I was crying and I just didn't know what to do. And I called 988 and the woman that answered that phone was the most compassionate person I've ever spoken to in my life. She gave voice to what I was feeling because I didn't understand what it was. And she helped me find my footing. And she gave me resources that would help me get through the next hour and then the next day and the next day after that. She was able to help me find therapy. She helped me give voice to what was going on in my head so I could go downstairs and talk to my wife. At the time, we had been together for 28 years. She had no idea how depressed I was because as an extrovert, and this is for all the extroverts out there, if you are shielding your pain, take that mask off because the only person you end up hurting is yourself. And that was me. Like I masked up, like we are pros at that. Okay. Not something we should be proud of ever. After that phone call, I went downstairs and talked to my wife and we talked for 3 hours. And first she was mad. She was mad because I didn't tell her what was going on. But if you don't understand what's going on in your head, it's really hard to articulate that to someone, even if it's someone you love dearly. The day after all the hell went down, I opened up to social media. I'm a very extroverted personality. And just, I felt like I needed to let people know what was going on in my life because for months I've been hiding behind my mask. And I had like 200 people reach back out to me privately and thank me because now they felt seen and they felt heard. But then I heard from a whole batch of other people that they were terrified because they had no idea how depressed I was. And the fact that here I am, the person that they have looked up to for years that was broken. And they wanted to know how they could help. The months after, that's how I was able to teach them how to help me and how to help others. It was during that period also that my manager, and I use that term super loosely because I retired in April. We were best friends at work, and it was funny because I was a lot more tenured than she was, and I'm also about 20 years older than she is. But we would call each other every morning and laugh about stuff you should never, ever laugh about. But here's the cool thing about laughter, right? It breaks up that cortisol. It gets your endorphins going. It gets your serotonin going. And so no matter how crappy your day is, you can look back on that conversation and laugh. So my two healers were sharing my story and laughing. So it was during one of those phone calls. She's like, hey, we should do a podcast. And I'm like, okay, sure, why not? You know what? I'm retiring in a couple of months. I'm going to have all this free time. So that was on January 14th. On February 14th, we released our first episode. And we did that in honor of my mom. I buried my mom in 1997 on Valentine's Day. And part of my healing, I wanted to change the trajectory of that day because for years that day sucked. And everybody's getting flowers. And I'm like, I just want to go to sleep. Leave me alone. And we both had full support from our spouses. We thought, oh, we'll get 3 episodes in, be fine. We're just going to chit chat. Okay, we do 3 episodes, and then that 3 episodes turns into 10 episodes. And by April, we had like 10,000 downloads. And I'm like, who's listening to us? We are complete idiots, right? We are so not clinical by any means. But we both have lived experiences with depression and mental health issues. And in the beginning, it was just the two of us. And then we started bringing guests on. And the conversations got deeper. And like we were still laughing, still giving people tips and tricks to help them get through from 1 minute to the next hour to the next day, and really starting to enjoy what we were doing. I took all that really horrible, awful pain and turned it into purpose. And the purpose just kept growing. And like we would get cooler and cooler guests, and Jōrni Skittles and I would like record, and we were like, damn, this is great. It's our free therapy. We still go to therapy ourselves when we record, and we get to talk to these amazing people. And we don't really talk to celebrities or influencers. These are everyday people that have gone through something really horrible. And a lot of times when they come on, they've never told a soul what was going on. Because here's the cool thing about podcasts, and Petra knows this, that once you get behind a microphone, it's just you and your host, or you and the guest. And there's something very comforting about that, because like with us, we don't release the video. We only release audio. And that gives people that ability to be their whole selves. Our show's not scripted at all. I think the only thing that's kind of scripted, because we've asked the same questions 412 times now, are the questions that we ask towards the end of the episode. But we also allow our guests to laugh and to cry and show emotion and be vulnerable. And the mission of the podcast will always stay the same. I want to normalize how we talk about mental health, because for me, as I look back on it, there was still shame. There was still like this portrayal of weakness that I couldn't take care of myself. And there was still stigma. Like I said, at the time it happened, I was 59 and a half. I grew up in a generation where you don't talk about what's going on in your head. You just suck it up, buttercup, and move on. That's all well and good until it doesn't have any place else to go. And did that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, amazing. And thank you for sharing your story. I feel like a lot of our listeners need to hear that so they can say, okay, there is somebody that understands. There are other people going through what I'm going through, because that isolation that you touched on, that mask that we like to put on, it's what so many of us live with day to day. And we think this is our life. This is how it has to be. We have to hide this. We have to make sure nobody else knows about it until the bottom falls out somewhere. Thank you for being honest and vulnerable about this, because this is exactly, I feel, how we can make a difference in how we talk about mental health going forward and how we change the narrative and the stigma around it. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. And people need to remember, you're never alone. Never, ever alone. If you are here in the US or in Canada, there is that 988 crisis hotline. You can use that even if you don't have suicide ideation. It is a crisis hotline. They have trained people on those phone lines to help you get to that next minute, next hour, next day. If you're outside of the US and Canada, there's another amazing resource you can use. You can go out to the helphub.co. That resource has crisis hotlines around the world. Just make sure you are talking to somebody. Do not hold it all in. And I will say this again and scream it from every rooftop. Take your mask off. Because at the end of the day, you need to remember that you are loved, you are wanted, you are needed, and the world is a better place because you're here. It was the hardest 6 months of my life, from the time that I initially called 988 to like that 6 month, like June, July-ish. I ended up going to therapy. And yes, I had to speed date my therapist. And that's a term coined by my co-host. We speed dated our therapist. I had to go through 3 before I found the one that I really liked. And I don't just do talk therapy. I do art therapy. I've done energy therapy. I meditate. I ground myself. And I spend as much time as I can out in nature, because nature is healing. Get your feet out in the grass. Watch the porch bandits, aka raccoons. Watch the squirrels because they're stupid and they eat all your food. But find stuff that brings you joy, because no matter how much on fire the world is today, you can still laugh. You can still find joy in little things. And that's what I try and incorporate into my each and every day. And the story gets better, right? So here comes May. My wife and I take an amazing 3-week trip to Europe. It was eye-opening for me. I'd never been to Europe before. And I had remembered all the bad things that happened, but all these amazing memories that we made, and all the people we met, and all the amazing food. And it helped me remember what my why was. July comes around. I had gotten a new job, and I worked for a really small consulting firm because I'd made a promise to myself when I retired I was never going to work for a big company again. That was all well and good until November of last year. And that company got picked up by one of the top 5 consulting firms. And I was like, nope, done. But this time, when I got super depressed, everybody knew what was going on, because you know what? You can only hide resting bitch face for so long. All right. I was very upfront and open with people that what was going on. I wasn't happy. And on December 21st, my wife and I were in New York City having dinner. And she turned to me and she's like, I know how much you hate your job. You can quit. Okay. Like the whole early retirement thing, this is all well and good. I like to work. I like to keep my mind busy. So I felt like a weighted X-ray blanket had come off my shoulders, because now I was given permission to quit my job. We flew home on the 22nd, and I forgot how long it takes to de-ice a plane. Thank God it took like 2 hours. I had my resume, and I had my phone, and I had ChatGPT. So I uploaded my resume into ChatGPT. I'm like, based on my 45 years in corporate America and everything I've done with our podcast, form an independent consulting firm. So in about 2 minutes, it came back. And it was a long list of stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to do like half of this stuff, because I'm at the very end of my career, right? There's a lot of stuff that I just don't want to do anymore. So I like pinned it down and everything. I went back to work on January 2nd. I turned in my 2 weeks. People were shocked. I'm like, you people need to learn how to read the room, okay? Read the room. And opened up my company that same day and officially launched Schoser Talent and Wellness Solutions on January 22nd. And all that hard stuff and all that pain, I turned it into purpose. I want people to see me as a story of hope, because I am telling you, I was within 20 minutes of taking my life. In doing my podcast and in doing my own company and in mentoring young people out there and just talking to my friends and my family, life is worth living. And some days are still really hard for me. I still get depressed, but now I have better tools to deal with it. And so like I journal and I talk more. Apparently my wife says I can't stop talking now, but that's okay. I get to share what it's like on the other side of depression. And fortunately for me, I didn't need medication, and I probably wouldn't have taken it anyway, because I know what those contraindications are. I just kept pushing through, and I still see my therapist twice a month. I'm going to be 62 in a couple of days, and yeah, I have a lot of like ghosts in my closet that need to be dug out, but some of them can stay in there for another 10 years. I just don't need to deal with them. But for day-to-day stuff, here's my ritual every day, and it may help you. So I get up, and the first thing I do is I watch a 20-minute funny video. And it could be cats, it could be raccoons. I know they're gross, but they're funny to watch. It could be squirrels, it could be ducks, it could be anything that makes me laugh, because I need that 20 minutes of laughter in the morning to like get me going. And then right after that, I stand up and I say what I'm grateful for, because a gratitude practice is so good for you. And when I go to brush my teeth in the morning, I look at myself in the mirror and I say, I love myself, because I do. I love everything about me. I'm still broken. I'm still human. I'm not a robot. But I get to go out there and help make a difference in this world. I want people to understand that like every time you share your story, you unlock somebody else's prison, because there's people out there that are in rural America that are by themselves. And here's the greatest thing about our podcast is that we don't have geographic boundaries. Our podcasts are heard across the world. We offer tips and tricks that you may not find on other websites, but these are things that have helped us. And if you ever want to know more about yourself, write a book. I wrote a book about my experience, and it's from an extroverted empath's point of view. I couldn't write it from an introvert because I've never been an introvert ever. In my book, I talk a lot about my story and my trials and tribulations, but I also give caregivers and parents and spouses and coworkers and friends tips and tricks on how to help somebody who's extroverted and how to determine if they're truly depressed and what's going on in our heads. If you have friends that are extroverts, number one, check in on them. Like I said, we are masters at disguising how we're feeling. And number two, when you reach out to them, ask them a question that they actually have to think about and answer. Don't ask us how our day's going, because I'm going to tell you what we're going to say. Oh, I'm doing great. I'm living the dream. In reality, we are not living the dream because our brains are telling us that you suck. Negative self-talk is the worst. The other thing you can do is say, hey, how's your mental health today? Because by doing that, you remove the stigma, you remove the shame, and you don't make them feel weak. When we reach out to you, here's what we need you to do. We need you to listen with your ears and not with your mouth. Because a lot of times, we just need to air out what's on our chest. And sometimes friends, as well-meaning as they are, don't try and offer us advice. And don't tell us to shake it off, and don't tell us to suck it up. That's just the stigma and the shame and the weakness being pointed back at us. And I'm a huge proponent for therapy. So,
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I hear a lot of great nuggets in there for our listeners as well. And also to check in with themselves, to maybe ask those questions to themselves. How's my mental health today? And how are the things going that I planned today? How's my head feeling? How's my energy feeling? And to see what comes up, because I feel like I often just gloss over those things too throughout the day. And I'm busy, I have to do this, I don't take the time to actually check in with myself. So great. And thank you for sharing those. Throughout what you've shared, I've heard that purpose is one of these things that seems to be a very, very like the glue that brings things together. And I know from speaking to others as well that purpose, when you lose the purpose or when you lose sort of your direction, or especially, when you retire or there's a big change in your life after certain life events, that can be a catalyst for depression, for anxiety, for even wanting to not be on this planet anymore. So, how do you feel purpose ties into your journey? And how do you feel purpose affects us, our mental health, when we don't have it? And how does that work when we do regain it, or can we regain it?
oh yeah, you can definitely regain your purpose. For me, on my screens, I always have my why I do the things I do. Purpose is what drives us to find that happier place, right? There are so many people that have gone through some really horrible things in their life. They turned it into something beautiful to help others so that they didn't feel the same way that you did. Purpose also helps you to, I'm just going to say, if you'd asked me 5 years ago that I was going to have a mental health breakdown, do a podcast, write a book, and have my own company, all the answers would be no. But I think we have to go through some really hard stuff in our life to find that purpose. For me, my purpose was to make sure that people weren't hurting anymore, and that we removed stigma and weakness and shame to make the world a better place, especially right now. The world is completely on fire right now. And if you can find that purpose of, hey, how can I help somebody today do this? Or maybe if I opened up my mouth, I could help somebody get through this problem. We need those people in the world because it only takes one person. As we're unlocking people's prisons and getting them to think about maybe what their purpose is and, hey, how could I do things to make things better for even somebody in my community or somebody in my workplace or someplace in the world. Do those things if you fail. But you know what? You can't say you failed unless you tried. And that's the way that I approach life now. If I fail, great. I'm okay with that because at least I tried. If I hadn't tried, I wouldn't have known that I couldn't do it. I've had people come back into my life from years ago asking me for advice and asking me to be a mentor and turning everything that was horrible into something so beautiful. And my story's not done yet. When I feel like I'm losing my purpose, I go back and I read my why. My why is to make the world a better place. We're human. We're not robots. We're not AI. We have emotions. We have good days. We have bad days. Believe in yourself. That's really hard to do, especially if you're depressed, but believe in yourself. Maybe stop with the negative self-talk because I will tell you, we talk worse to ourselves than you ever would in a nasty text message to somebody else. Just be kind. We say be kind to other people. Be kind to yourself. Offer yourself patience and grace. You know what? We make mistakes. Stuff happens in life, but be honest with yourself and be happy that you get to do these things because not everybody is so lucky. And if you could maybe do a random act of kindness for somebody, I'm telling you, that lifts your heart, lifts mine up every time I get to do a random act of kindness. That reminds me of what my purpose is. And if you feel like you're losing your purpose or you're stuck, take a step back. I'm a firm believer in writing and journaling, and my journal helped me write my book. I would go through and I would be like, that's not going in, that's not going in, that's not going. But I go back and I'd look at these memories and that whole bunch of stuff of everything that wasn't going to go into the book were things I didn't need to remember. So they went in the fire pit. I am telling you, the most awesome feeling in the world is to watch those memories go up in flames. It was like a true dumpster fire. But it made me feel good because I could see the growth from the time that everything went down to where I am now. Patience and grace. Remember why you're doing the things you're doing. And sometimes it's easy to lose focus, but the world is your oyster and you can really turn it into something beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you for leaving us with those thoughts. I like that. That's the thing. Patience, grace, gratitude. Some of the things that are very difficult to do when you're in the midst of depression, but they can and do bring a lot of healing. Yeah, Gretchen, I'm curious for anyone listening today that might be having some of the same feelings that you had, or they might even be contemplating whether they want to be here any longer, or might be at that point that you were at when you were holding that pill bottle. What was something that actually helped you in that moment when you called the 988 line? You touched on that there were some things that were provided that helped you get just through the next minute, the next hour. What would you share with someone if they're at that point and hopefully they will call 988? Hopefully they will reach out and talk to someone in that moment. But what was something that was actually helpful to you in that moment?
As I was contemplating and getting ready to call 988, like I said, there was that glimmer of hope that things were going to get better. I knew I was loved and wanted and needed in that moment, but life got really heavy really quick. But if you were contemplating taking your life, or if you were truly in crisis, take your mask off and call somebody. Remember, you are not alone, or contact a crisis hotline. They will make sure you're taken care of, and these lines are anonymous and free. Life can take you down like 47 notches in 2 seconds. I want people to remember that even on the hardest days, you are still loved. There are still people out there that want you in your life. Pick up the phone and just call somebody. If you can't call them, text them. Find somebody in your house. If you're at work, talk to a colleague. There is a ton of help out there. I will tell you, honestly, that life is worth living. Even though I couldn't see it at that time, I'm so happy I stuck with it because I wouldn't have any of what I have now.
Yeah, absolutely. share, talk, contact somebody, reach out. If it's very hard to do it anyways, because as Gretchen said, there is something beautiful to come after that decision. If you decide to stay and go through that, thank you for that. And thank you for, I feel like you're very honestly sharing such a very difficult topic to talk about. Thank you for that. I don't often get to have these really vulnerable conversations on very difficult topics. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And Gretchen, share with us what your podcast is called, and also share with us how people can connect with you. Do you provide any programs or any services if our listeners would like to connect with you, or maybe they would like to even work with you? How can they reach you?
There's a couple of places. Our podcast is called Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. So shit is spelled with an exclamation point. We're on every major platform, even all the smaller platforms. If you want to learn more about the podcast, you can go to goesonourheads.net. And if you want to learn more about my business, I have Schoser Talent and Wellness Solutions. And you can sign up for a free 30-minute consult. It's two pieces. It's tech and it's wellness. On the tech side, I work with customers that are using UKG recruiting and onboarding. I do system implementations, trainings, system reviews, things like that. And then on the wellness side, I would like to work with small companies and helping them ensure that their employees aren't burned out, stressed out, giving managers and HR leaders tips and tricks for how to handle mental health, especially during change management. It's a piece that most companies forget about. And I just co-authored the mental health toolkit with Calmery and one of my other co-hosts, Lisa Sugarman. We also have the Survivors podcast, which I also co-host, and every major platform. And we really talk about suicide awareness on that. If you want to learn more about my company, just go out to schosersolutions.com. I offer a free 30-minute consult. I'm open every day but Saturday and Sunday, and I would love to talk to you. And if you're in crisis, you can reach out to any of those email addresses, and I can help you find the help you need.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And we, of course, will be linking to all of Gretchen's offerings in the show notes as well. Be sure to check there. And if this episode is resonating with you, if you're feeling that this is part of what you're going through, please reach out to one of the crisis lines, reach out to Gretchen, and get that community around you, get that support network around you so that you can begin this healing journey, long and arduous as it may be. But everyone that I speak to that has come through this journey actually finds something beautiful along that, and they do find whys and purpose and memories they make, experiences they have. And I feel after such a life-changing event, we look at these things a little bit differently, maybe with a little bit more appreciation or gratitude, because we always have in the back of our heads what could have happened instead. I feel also, for me, there's a different kind of appreciation when we come through something like that. Thank you for that, Gretchen. And thank you for being here with me today and sharing your story, sharing your wisdom, and bringing this light into the world and helping others along their paths. I truly do appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor to be on your show. Thank you for letting me share my story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope we reach so many people with this. Everyone who needs to hear it will hear it and will reach out, so that we continue on that mission that you're on to make the world a better place. Thank you for that, Gretchen, and take really good care of yourself.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Jōrni Podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Jōrni on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejōrni.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.